Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, bro. This famous quote is often attributed to Sigmund Freud, the Austrian psychiatrist and neurologist who founded psychoanalysis. But here's the ironic part. According to Freud's theories, smoking indicates an oral fixation, which can also manifest as a love for oral sex. And yet, Freud himself was a chain smoker. There's no real evidence that he tried to justify his habit, though. The cigar quote was probably never said by him in the first place. Besides, Freud's theory was way more complex than that. His concepts were revolutionary back in the day, impacting psychology, medicine, and even philosophy. But a lot of it is considered outdated now, with new psychoanalytic ideas replacing Freudianism. However, the foundations laid by Freud are still significant today. Modern psychoanalysts revisit his works with fresh interpretations, and many branches of psychology can trace their roots back to his theories. So what did he really say? Why is a cigar not just a cigar according to him? And what's the deal with Freudian slips? Let's break it down. If you're digging our psychology videos, hit that subscribe button and smash the like. Freud's most groundbreaking work revolved around his studies of hysteria. This diagnosis had been around since ancient Greece, where it was understood as a wandering womb condition, so male hysteria was considered impossible. It was purely a female behavioral disorder. By the late 19th century, this diagnosis was widespread, with symptoms ranging from fainting spells and nervous breakdowns to paralysis or hysterical arching. Treatments included genital massage and hypnosis. While the term hysteria is now outdated, Freud's discoveries from studying this condition were revolutionary at the time. He concluded that hysteria arose from repressed sexual desires and that these desires weren't unique to women. Men and even children experienced them too. His research kickstarted a sexual revolution in psychology, laying the groundwork for psychoanalysis. Freud examined how a child's sexual development impacted their character, neuroses, and life struggles as an adult. He outlined 5 psychosexual stages of development. The oral stage starts from birth until around age 1. At this stage, the mouth is the erogenous zone that provides pleasure, especially during breastfeeding. If there are any issues with breastfeeding, the person can develop an oral fixation leading to habits like overeating, smoking, nail biting, and even a preference for oral sex later on. The anal stage kicks in right after, lasting until around age 3. Now the erogenous zone shifts to the anus, with the child deriving pleasure from defecating. This ties into potty training. If parents handle it right with encouragement, no fixation develops. But if they're too strict or inconsistent, it can lead to either an anal expulsive personality, acting impulsively, destructively, or an anal retentive one, stingy, stubborn, overly organized. The phallic stage spans ages 3, 6. Kids become interested in their genitals, masturbating, and asking where babies come from. This stage also sees the emergence of the Oedipus complex, where the child desires the opposite-sex parent and resents the same-sex one out of jealousy. Ultimately, boys start identifying with their fathers and girls with their mothers, adopting gender roles. Fixation at this stage can cause promiscuity in women and a drive to conquer women in men, even leading to impotence/frigidity. The latency stage lasts from 6-12 years old, marking a temporary halt in sexual interests as kids focus on academics and forming platonic friendships instead. Fixation here can breed insecurity and inferiority complexes. Finally, the genital stage begins in puberty extending into adulthood. According to Freud, teens go through a short homosexual phase of attraction to the same sex, expressed through bonding, sex play. But eventually, the libido switches to the opposite sex. Successful completion allows for healthy sexual relationships, while a fixation can create an obsession with sex at the cost of intimacy. Beyond sexual development, Freud also conceptualized the structure of the human psyche with 3 components: the id, ego, and superego. The id is the primitive, unconscious part of the mind that's present from birth. It contains our most basic drives and instincts, which Freud categorized into 2. The life instincts, eros, the sexual drive aimed at preserving and reproducing life, and the death instincts, thanatos, the aggressive, destructive urges toward self-annihilation. Modern thinkers ditch the instinct concept, referring to these simply as life and death drives instead. Buried in the id lie our true unconscious desires tied to these drives described by Freud. We're not aware of them, but the id governs our behavior and impulses. The superego is the moral conscience that incorporates societal rules and norms as we grow up. It acts as a filter for the desires of the id, control and repressing them. Finally, the ego is the conscious mind, the self, that has to balance the primal id and moral superego. Early on, the ego is ruled by the id, which Freud used to explain childish selfishness. But as the superego develops, behavior changes, and the person adapts to society's standards. Many experts still use Freud's idea of the unconscious today. The goal of modern psychoanalysis is to make people aware of their repressed urges and satisfy the needs hidden in the unconscious mind. To access the unconscious, Freud developed two key techniques. One was free association, having the patient spontaneously say whatever comes to mind without censorship. Freud believed slip of the tongues, Freudian slips, revealed repressed thoughts this way. The analyst would analyze these unfiltered words for hidden desires. The other method Freud used to access the unconscious involved analyzing dreams. He believed that the manifest content of a dream, the actual sequence of events, was merely a facade concealing its true latent content and meaning. Psychoanalysts would interpret their patients' dream narratives to uncover the unconscious thoughts and desires being expressed symbolically through the dream imagery. While Freudianism is now largely seen as an outdated theory, the fundamentals of Freudian psychoanalysis still underpin many modern psychological approaches. Contemporary analysts continue revisiting and reinterpreting Freud's works, as his profound impact on the field gave rise to multiple derivative schools of thought. So what do you think about Freud's groundbreaking but controversial ideas? Was he a revolutionary genius who uncovered the building blocks of the human psyche? Or was he simply a man of his time promoting questionable theories tainted by his era's prevailing sexism and repression? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Whether you buy into his psychosexual stages, dream interpretation methods, or structural model of the mind, there's no denying the enduring influence of Sigmund Freud. His daring exploration of the unconscious mind revolutionized our understanding of human behavior and mental processes. Love him or hate him, Freud forced psychology to confront the irrational, seething undercurrents that he believed lurked beneath our conscious selves. His insights, however flawed, catalyzed centuries of inquiry into why we think, feel, and act the way we do. So while the judge is still out on a lot of Freud's specific claims, his legacy is cemented as the founding father who transformed psychology from a nascent discipline into a daring study of the human depths. Even his most ardent critics have to admit, the man may have been wrong as hell, but he definitely wasn't boring.